Hey everyone, this is Exploring Fiction, and welcome to another video. So, in last week's video, I promised that I would give my kind of critique of Avengers Endgame, and so this video is all about why I didn't think Avengers Endgame was a masterpiece, or maybe even a top 5 MCU film. So, I have 6 reasons from most prevalent to least prevalent in my mind about why I didn't think Avengers Endgame was as good as many people believe and praise it to be. So, my first reason, of course, as you may have guessed, is Thor, or what became Fat Thor. So, as I kind of stated last week, I loved Thor's journey in Ragnarok and Infinity War, how he was cast out of Asgard by his sister and became worthy without his hammer to finally lead his people, which has been kind of a theme from the first Thor movie. And after that failed, with Thanos finding and killing half the Asgardians, how he was able to create a new weapon and came so close to killing the greatest enemy the world has ever seen. It cemented Thor as a great character through those two movies, and I was excited to see what they did with him and how he would emotionally recover from being so close to victory only to have it be snatched away. And out of all things they could have done, I just thought they went with the worst possible option with Fat Thor. Now, I know some people say that Thor was a good embodiment of what it's like to be depressed or having trouble dealing with trauma or your negative emotions, but in my opinion, he's a superhero, and I wanted to see how someone who is larger than life, greater than a regular human, would be able to overcome their greatest failure and make it a great triumph. And Thor just felt too much like a normal human, and he was just not heroic enough for my liking. And so that's the reason why he is the number one problem I have with Avengers Endgame. So my second point is time travel. Now, a lot of people actually thought this is where they were going to go with this, and I was keeping an open mind before Endgame came out, so I didn't really know what to expect. But the whole time travel and alternate reality scheme felt like it was straight from the comics, but for me personally, it came off as a bit overwhelming and a little bit too complex for one film, even though the film ended up being 3 hours to explain the whole thing. I just felt as though time travel. I always feel like time travel is a bit of a cop out unless that is the main focus of the story. In movies like Back to the Future, where it is literally about time travel, I always feel like time travel seems like a bit of a do-over and a cop out for the characters to not have to deal with their problems. And the 5 years passed in Endgame, so it felt like we missed all of the coping and heroes dealing with their problems in real time and just went straight for the go back in time and redo everything. And so that was disappointing to me. My third point is the characters from the past. So, although not far from characters in previous movies, the characters that they had from the past brought into the present, I just didn't really have an emotional connection. For example, past Thanos, who came to the future to stop, or to the present to stop the Avengers, he just felt like he had none of the baggage that the Infinity War Thanos had, where we got to see Infinity War Thanos' struggle and villainous triumph to complete his goal. I was looking for another battle between that Thanos and the Avengers, and that would make victory all the sweeter, but it didn't happen that way. Same with past Gamora and past Nebula. Now, I guess it will be interesting to see what happens with past Gamora and Star-Lord in the future, but that makes me feel like we're just doing relationships over again that we've seen already, instead of either going in a new direction or coming to a satisfying conclusion for the relationships we've built throughout the past 10 years. My fourth point is all of the cringing that I did, which pretty much means Fortnite and dabbing. Now, I'll just put it bluntly. A movie like Endgame, I believe, should feel timeless no matter when you watch it, and Fortnite and dabbing being in it just feels really cringy and a sign of the times. And so when I look back in 10, 20 years, I'll never be able to put Avengers Endgame as my top MCU film just because it seems dated and trying to appeal to fads of the present instead of doing what's really best for the narrative. My fifth point is similar to something I pointed out in last week's video, and it's that Professor Hulk was iffy for me. Now, he wasn't as big of a problem as Fat Thor, since he did have a really valiant moment for his character, which was sacrificing the use of one of his arms to use the snap and bring back all of the lost Avengers. But I still felt like Hulk was in his prime in Ragnarok and Infinity War, where we had finally seen him develop the ability to string together coherent sentences and just be more like what he was in the comics instead of what he was in the earlier films, which was unintelligent, rambling monster. So Professor Hulk and Banner just didn't really feel the same to me. They just felt very non-heroic, again, kind of like Fat Thor. And so my sixth and final point is more of a nitpick, I suppose, but it's still worth mentioning, and it's that we didn't see a rematch fight between Hulk and Thanos. That glorious first couple minutes of Infinity War on the Asgardian ship where Hulk and Thanos are just beating on each other and it's a true clash of titans. We never got to see the sequel that was practically set up throughout all of Infinity War and fans were begging to see. We never got to see Hulk take his revenge at Thanos for the beating he took in Infinity War, and so that was just a little bit disappointing. So, on almost a little over actually, the 2-year anniversary of Avengers Endgame hitting theaters, I just wanted to voice my opinion on why I don't think Avengers Endgame was a masterpiece or even a top 5, maybe even top 10 MCU film. Trust me, there are a lot of positives to come out of it too. Like, the last hour was some really good stuff. All the action in the last hour I loved. But again, a lot of it just didn't work, and it just felt way too much of a bittersweet ending to such a great 10-year saga that we had. And I just felt like, along with Captain Marvel, Endgame set the MCU going in the wrong direction. So, if you enjoyed this little commentary, let me know by leaving a like or a comment, letting me know what you thought, and maybe even subscribing if you're liking the content. I'm going to try and do one video per week, just to give everyone a heads up, so be on the lookout for weekly videos, and thanks for stopping by. I will see you next time.